Have you ever felt the entire world turn its back when you fall? Liam Vance had everything until his life's work crumbled into dust, literally and figuratively. It wasn't just a building that collapsed. It was his reputation, his pride, and his future. In one single night, his brilliant career became a public disaster. The media was ruthless, painting him as a negligent architect. Overnight, his name was blacklisted from every major firm and professional association in the country. Exile followed quickly. Stripped of his license and his dignity, Liam watched as his dreams were systematically dismantled by the very people who once praised him. His luxury apartment was gone, replaced by a cold, echoing space. He sat in the silence of his own failure, surrounded by the remnants of his life. Everything he had built was a lie. The blueprints that once represented his genius now served as a painful reminder of his absolute and devastating fall. To the world, Liam Vance was a ghost. To himself, he was a failure who had lost the most important thing of all, his own honor. The transition from the top to the bottom was swift. No longer an architect of steel, he was now just another man trying to survive. From a world-class architect to a humble waiter. The shame wasn't the job itself, but the crushing weight of a lost identity and a broken spirit. His hands, once used to designing skylines, now trembled under the weight of porcelain. Every movement was a struggle against his own mounting sense of humiliation. He spent his days cleaning up after strangers, his mind constantly replaying the moment his building fell. He was trapped in a cycle of endless regret. Cruelty came from those he once knew. Former colleagues would visit just to witness his fall, their laughter cutting deeper than any bankruptcy ever could. He felt his ego being crushed into nothingness. But at the rock bottom of his despair, a small, stubborn flame of curiosity began to flicker. He had lost his wealth, his status, and his pride. Yet in the silence of the night, he started to realize he still had his eyes. He watched the buildings he didn't build, wondering why they stood while his fell. He was searching for a truth he had previously ignored completely. His hands were changing. They were no longer the hands of a dreamer, but the hands of someone who understood the gritty reality of the world. In his tiny room, he began to study again. Not the flashy designs of modernism, but the ancient secrets of things that survived for centuries. He saw strength in the most unlikely places. Life was finding a way to persist through the concrete, just as he was trying to find himself. Destiny eventually led him to a place where old things were made new again. A workshop where the past was respected, not just replaced by steel. The air was thick with the scent of cedar and history. Here, time moved differently, and the noise of the modern world finally began to fade. He met Joe, a master of restoration who understood the soul of materials. Joe didn't care about Liam's past. He only cared about the wood. Every stroke of the chisel was deliberate. Liam watched in silence, mesmerized by a level of craftsmanship he had never truly practiced in his career. He realized that while he had been designing for the eyes of others, this man was working for the integrity of the object itself. Then, Liam saw the wall. 11 names, 11 failed businesses, all crossed out in bold red. It was a gallery of hard-earned lessons and scars. Joe didn't hide his failures. He wore them like badges of honor. "Each one of these taught me what not to do," the old man whispered. Joe pointed to the core of a beam. "Your mistake was building a beautiful shell on a hollow heart. True strength comes from the center." The revelation hit Liam like a physical blow. He had been a decorator of surfaces, not a creator of foundations. His perspective shifted forever. The philosophy of durable structure was born in that dusty workshop. It wasn't about the height of the building, but the depth of its roots. They talked for hours about the marriage of technology and nature. Joe taught him that the most advanced material in the world is life itself. Liam felt a new kind of power. He wasn't just going to build again. He was going to build something that would never fall. He returned to his work with a different fire. He moved into a small office, trading his luxury lifestyle for a laboratory of sustainable ideas. He implemented the 18-month rule. The first 3 months were dedicated solely to learning, stripping away everything he thought he knew about construction. He studied biomaterials and how fungi could heal cracks in structures. He was looking for a way to make buildings breathe and grow. The next 18 months were for relentless execution. No distractions, no shortcuts. He followed the plan with the discipline of a soldier. Investors laughed at him. They saw a disgraced architect with a crazy idea. But Liam didn't care about their approval anymore. He cared about the core. He refined his designs 1,000 times. Each failure in the model was a lesson learned before a single brick was ever laid on the ground. He lived in his workshop, surviving on coffee and conviction. The 18-month rule was a test of his soul as much as his engineering. The first signs of success were literal. His materials didn't just stand, they lived. This was the birth of a new era in sustainable architecture. The strength tests were undeniable. His living concrete was stronger and more flexible than anything on the market. The industry began to take notice. His first building was a miracle. It didn't just house people, it cleaned the air around it. The world had never seen anything like it. The rule was simple. Don't look at the result, look at the structure. By focusing on the core, the beautiful results followed naturally. The transformation was complete. Liam Vance was no longer the man who fell. He was the man who had built a foundation of steel. His company, Green Core Tech, revolutionized the skyline. He turned gray cities into living jungles, creating a legacy that would last for generations. These buildings didn't just stand, they thrived. They were proof that profit and planet could exist in perfect, durable harmony. He built a team that shared his vision. He didn't just hire for talent, he hired for the integrity of their own personal core values. As CEO, he led with the wisdom of someone who had lost everything. He knew that a business, like a building, needs a solid foundation. The applause was no longer hollow. It was the sound of respect earned through struggle and the absolute refusal to give up on a dream. He was no longer the architect of failure. He was the pioneer of a new world, a symbol of resilience for every person who had fallen. The awards were just symbols. The real prize was the knowledge that his structures would outlive him, providing safety and beauty to millions of people. His empire was valued at $15 million, but its true worth was immeasurable. He had turned a disaster into a global standard of excellence. The growth was sustainable because the technology was real. He had solved the problem of urban decay by introducing the logic of living systems. He finally understood what it meant to build. It wasn't about the fame or the money. It was about the strength of the internal structure. Success didn't make him forget the lessons of the workshop. He returned to the place where his ego died, and his vision was born. Joe was still there, carving his wood. He didn't care about the $15 million. He only cared that Liam had found the core. He looked at the wall again. He realized that his own name once belonged on that list. And that was exactly why he succeeded eventually. He drew a line through his old self. The past was no longer a burden. It was the heavy stone that anchored his new, soaring height. The difference between a winner and a loser is simply the courage to stand up one more time with a much smarter strategy for life. Failure isn't a destination. It's the cost of the most valuable education you will ever receive. Use it to build something that cannot break. Are you ready to rebuild your core? Your current struggle is just the foundation for a skyscraper that hasn't reached the clouds quite yet. How many times have you failed? Leave the number in the comments below, and let's start building your durable future together, right now.